Ask Tom on Home Show.
Jeff from Somerville, South Carolina has some siding worries.
Yeah, he just moved into a new home, Tom, and found this. You can see the Hardy kind
He has red circles on his home.
He really needs to get those off there. And somebody wrote 20 plus on there. It's got to go.
I see that. Okay. I'm sorry.
No.
Being a smart guy.
Sorry, we're being wise asses here, Jeff.
Yeah.
Seriously, what we're talking about is that wiggly piggly thing that's going on with his Hardy siding. Jeff writes, our inspector says wavy siding is indicative of poor framing. He says the builder insisted is within tolerance. I've reviewed the installation guide, but can't find a tolerance measurement. South Carolina Building Code indicates a 1/4 inch over a 32-inch span. How do I attempt to measure this? I assume a level and measuring tape, but how far from the bulge do I place the level, and how close to the bulge do I measure, and all that? So he's trying to get to the bottom of it, but it sounds to me like what he's looking to do is get data with which to go to the builder and say, fix this. What are your thoughts on this whole imbroglio, Tom?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. First off, for someone to say there's a framing problem, it's not a framing problem. When they used the lumber, they didn't straighten the walls real well. So first thing I want to say is there's no structural issues. The house isn't going to fall down. There's not major repairs. It's cosmetic. And it's because it wasn't framed using really straight lumber, and they didn't straighten their walls before they put it back. But most importantly, you know what they didn't use? They didn't have a sheathing on the building. It probably is nailed directly to the studs. And if you look at the Hardy specifications, depending on the spacing of the studs, how straight the wall is, without a real good sheathing, and people use foams and stuff, that doesn't help. You get this, what we call oil canning effect, where you're going to get different areas that are gapped a little bit differently. And what it really shows, and if you look really closely, and I've taken this picture and I blew it up right to the very close areas, is the shadow line starts to grow and get bigger and smaller. And that's what your eye is catching, is the shadow starts, I'm starting to point at the picture. The shadow starts to get bigger.
So you can see it right there.
Yeah, so people can see if it's even, it's fine. When it starts to go up and down during certain times of the day is when your eye notices it. So if there was no shadow, no sun at nighttime, it looks great. So so what I'm getting at is if you really wanted to look to see how off it was, you don't use a level, you use a string. And you take the string out from each quarter of the building, say 1 inch, 2 inches, half an inch, however it's going to clear the whole thing. And then you take your measuring tape and you can measure where it's away from the string. So the string line is how you're going to justify the differences in where this rolling is going from inside to outside. Now, tolerances on something like this, I don't think you'll find. It has to be it's a cosmetic thing, so it either looks good or it doesn't. That's your tolerance there. Building codes, Hardy probably doesn't have anything on there for this because it's not a issue that would be a problem with their product. It's more of a cosmetic problem, so they're not going to create a tolerance for something that doesn't affect their warranty. The warranties are what the tolerances are built around. So at this point, it's purely cosmetic. How you can fix it, you'd have to take that whole wall apart and do something. I really don't think there's a lot anybody's ever going to do with this, but I do understand the frustration. And when the sun hits it right, how it will look off a little bit. This also happens with roofing that's done with OSB board. If the sun hits it right, and you can see the edges of the OSB board over the years, they raise up. So you get what's called window painting, and you can almost spot how the plywood has been put on the roof deck through a thinner shingle. It's no fault. It's just the way the materials react. And that's why it's important to kind of choose your builder who chooses different materials. Just to wrap this up on framing, when I used to frame homes and I was actively building, I didn't like this happening because this happens with pine studs. So all my studs, which are the vertical members in the wall, I would order fir studs. Fir is a softer wood. You always put them 16-inch on center so that the structure wasn't the issue, but they're very straight and true. And when you line your walls up, it always came out really nice. You never had this problem on the outside, or people will notice it on the inside with sheetrock too, where you get a little bit of rolling. Now with pine studs, what they will do is they will, before they put the sheetrock and the siding on, they'll put a string line down and they'll find the ones that are curved off a little bit and they'll cut a slot in them, force them back straight, and then put a board next to it and straighten out all the crooked studs. but a lot of quick, fast production type builders would never go through that process. And quite frankly, it's easier to order the fur stud so you don't have to do that because that's very time consuming.
Well, that covers that. If you got a question, click on the Ask Tom button. So sometimes he leaves room for a question, but you covered that thing like a bug on a rug, buddy. You send us pictures too, like that. It helped us, when Jeff sent us that picture. It helped not only us understand Jeff's situation, but if you're facing that and you see what he's got, it helps you too. See how that works? So help us, help you, and help y'all, all y'all, by sending us pictures with your stuff, and then watch for the videos at our YouTube channel, Home Show Radio YouTube channel, and at HomeShowRadio.com.